Why don't you give me a sign?
This is Corinna Jane.
The leaves are trailing on that shore. It's not your problem, it's mine.
With her brand new single, Give Me a Sign.
While the world still spins,
As featured on BBC Introducing.
it's just the way it's gotta be. Give me a sign about the things that we don't know. Why don't you give me a sign?
Corinna Jane, Give Me a Sign. Out now.
It's not your problem, it's mine.
Austin. Wait, let me guess. The mandatory vaccination announcement. I just don't understand why everybody's so upset.
Austin Ellis?
You haven't left your apartment in weeks.
Hello, I'm Sophia Jessica, and welcome to the Fan Carpet.
It's wonderful to speak to you all today. How are you all doing?
Great.
Good.
Busy.
Yeah. Right. Busy's good.
Yes.
If we go back to the beginning, was there a defining moment for you to get into the entertainment industry?
Who?
All of you.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, no one specific.
Tyler.
it's a moment. I don't know if there was a defining moment to get me into the industry. I think a lot of kind of small waves of things kind of happened that kind of pushed me into the industry before I knew it was an industry. I think, where I grew up, it's kind of, you're used to kind of, they kind of breed you to go to school, get married, have kids, move on, just get a good job. And that's kind of it. And I think the creative arts was never really pushed as a job. And so I think a lot of little kind of moments, whether it was just, dancing in like a school project or doing like a talent show or just small things kind of led me into finding out that, oh, you can actually sometimes you can make money from this industry, and live a life. So for me, yeah, I think just a bunch of little things.
I mean, for me, I don't think it was a defining moment either. I think it's kind of similar to what Tyler said. It's like I fell into doing things creatively in school. I was always a drawer or a painter or doing things creative, and then was in the school band. And then my band teacher, who was also the drama teacher, offered me to be in a play. And then I realized in that moment, I said, oh, I can play and have another voice. And then I discovered that you could do anything in the hub of acting and dancing, and that just kind of trickled into my college years. And I wanted to go to school to be an educational theater major, so I wanted to bring that element to other schools to let kids know that they could find a voice other than just being the quarterback or the cheerleader. I didn't realize that you had other venues. And then when I was in college, I had the opportunity to start working professionally in the entertainment business because I went to school in New York City, and you just kind of fall into things there. And a manager here, a manager there. And then eventually they were like, you should go to LA for pilot season. And I was like, what does that mean? And it was like, oh, when all the shows start to happen. So I started becoming bi-coastal when I was in college, and or a little bit after college. And sooner or later just stuck out here because I started working, and I realized that if I wanted to be consistently doing something to make money, it kind of had to be LA for now. So
Have you, Tiffany?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of similar. I wouldn't say there was one defining moment, although there was one film that kind of really struck me as a kid, which was Malcolm X, and just how films can really invade you and just make you see things differently. And I was like, oh, wow, I really enjoy, or I would love to be a storyteller. And my grandmother actually was a playwright and put on productions back in the 70s and 80s in San Francisco. So I could say maybe it's a little bit in my blood to be a storyteller. And just like in high school, I choreographed our school musicals. So just kind of creating in different, facets of the arts has kind of always been something that just kind of pushed me, to keep doing it. And then I moved to LA, and yeah.
Awesome.
Creating.
Awesome. Yes. So what was it about Indemnity, the Rabbit Hole series, that compelled you to want to create it?
Well,
Well,
the story actually came from Mr. Parks over there.
well, yeah. I mean, I think just our current surroundings. This. I was up until like 3 a.m. one morning, which is most mornings, but I'm like up until 3 a.m. and my brain's not shutting off. And one night I just had this random thought of like, oh God, what happens if we don't ever leave this lifestyle? And this was back in, I would say maybe August-ish, late August of last year of 2020. And we had gone through this new kind of world for a lot of us of this pandemic, and not really knowing where things are. I mean, I don't know, what was said necessarily in the UK, but over here, when we first kind of locked down in late March, April, everybody was like, the country was kind of like, we're going to open back up by June 1st. Everything's going to be better by June 1st. And then, here I am in August being like, what happens if we don't leave this lifestyle? We're still basically on lockdown. Things are still closed. Businesses have completely closed for good. Unfortunately, and my brain just kept processing this idea of what happens if this is our normal from now on. What happens? Where do we go from here? How do we find a way to live in this space? And I think that's the great thing about humans is we can adapt to our surroundings pretty well. I mean, we've seen how everything has gone online, or people have found new ways around things, doing their jobs or whatnot. So it really was this, what happens if we keep going? And I hit up Mrs. Littlejohn here, and I was like, hey, what happens if we do this? Would you be interested in writing and directing it? And she was like, oh yeah, this is great, let's try it. And I think putting our brains together, we just kind of kept diving into some really dark places, but I think it was cool because we got to really develop this what if scenario a little bit more fully, and giving people an idea of where could we go if we continue this path. Tiff?
Yeah, I mean, after Tyler, pitched the idea to me, I was like, yeah, I love it, because, independently, I kind of had my own theories. And, when we started talking about it, we found out that we shared a lot of the same kind of, ideas, and came to some of the same conclusions. And then from there, just talking to other people that we know and kind of their concerns. And from there, we just started fleshing out the story and brainstorming. And it's just funny because it started out like really small with 4 actors filming themselves in their apartments with their own phones. And as we kind of kept writing and, fleshing it out, just kind of kept building. And, we talk about it now because if we had known then what it would have turned out, we probably would have been like, oh, I don't think we could do this. It's just too much. It's too big. But it was just kind of really amazing to see how it unfold from this idea in Tyler's brain to us, say, let's get 4 actors together, to what it is now. And so I think it's pretty incredible what we were able to accomplish in like 3 months and 18 shooting days, and just talented people with us.
Yeah, it's awesome. So are the locations like your places, like your individual homes in the series that we see, is that your places?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. The leads, so myself, Candice, and Jacqueline Wonkwo, we used our homes for our living spaces in the show. and then yeah, everything else we rented.
Okay.
Mhm.
So was it a case of like when you were on your own, filming in your own houses? Did you have to be your own DPs and your own
Oh,
cinematographers,
the crew came
etc.?
in. We had the
Oh,
crew
okay.
there. Yeah, a small crew, but you know, it was definitely efficient and it was very personalized, I would say, because we were in a pandemic and we had to keep it to a minimum. You know, we live in these like 1-bedroom apartments in Los Angeles, so we had to make the best of the situation that we were in, which is, you know, I think they accomplished that pretty well.
Yeah, you did absolutely. So how do you relate to your characters?
For me, I just had to find, you know, I don't necessarily tend to relate to characters because, you know, you play a whole array of people in your journey. Um, what I think as actors, what I want to do is I want to bring to life a character. So kind of creating that person's own story and, you know, giving her her own heartbeat and purpose, you know, so even if it's something that I don't agree with or live by, if I'm not, you know, uh, you have to find the truths in that human being and bring it to life. So I think that, you know, if anything, I can relate to the fact that Charlotte cares about the people she surrounds herself with, and she cares about what she does for a living, and she believes in who she is and what she's doing is the right thing. So that's how I would say I can connect to her.
Yeah, I have similar feelings as well as what Kendi said. You know, I think um, I just think it's interesting because, you know, Tiffany and I kind of, you know, really kind of hunkering down and creating Austin. I I think he kind of became something that we didn't initially think of. At least in my brain, you know, I didn't see him as necessarily as intense as he became, which I liked, just because I think it also kind of speaks to the mental health issues and things that we all kind of experience, especially through a pandemic. We see Austin really battle his anxiety and really battle um, his need to express himself in some type of meaningful way. And yeah, I think that kind of relates to me. You know, I'm always trying to find a way to express myself and find a way to be just present, but also feel like I am taking up space, if that makes any sense, you know? Like, I want to be making some type of a difference. And I think that's kind of where I relate to him.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Now, you deal with some tough subjects in the series, namely the mandatory vaccinations. What was the inspiration behind tackling those subjects?
I mean, I think again, it's kind of, you know, what Tyler was saying initially. It was just that kind of what if scenario. And, you know, obviously you want to be optimistic and hope that this, you know, doesn't, you know, cloud our lives for the next 10 years. But, you know, um, I think it's not bad to question certain things and, you know, wonder the origin of certain things and potentially agendas behind certain things. And that was something that, you know, I'm sure other people have considered. And so it was just one of those things where, you know, what if it turns out to be that? What would life be like? What would that world be like? How would our freedoms, you know, be, you know, affected? You know, we talk about surveillance, so many things that kind of were deemed at once conspiracies have turned out to be true. So I think it's just something that is very relevant to our lifestyle and our lives, and we wanted to kind of explore that a little bit with this.
Great. Independent filmmaking comes with a lot of challenges. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you faced when making this?
Yes. Time, budget, Yeah, no. I mean, yes, those things.
They're usually the ones.
Yeah, those are usually the common ones.
Yeah.
Yes, like the huge ones. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because Tiff and I, like she said, originally we were expecting this to be 4 actors shooting from home, and we had already kind of thought that this would be a challenge in itself, because we were like, okay, well, now we have to make sure everybody's filming in the same frame rate and the same, aspect ratio, all of these things, so that we make sure we can edit it together and it look cohesive. So that was the first challenge. And then when it became this, what we see Indemnity, as now, it came with a very different set, but also those initial things that we were like, oh, these are going to be our biggest issues, kind of fell to the wayside. We have a brilliant DP, Rob McIntosh, and he shot the show for us. But even with that, like I said, budgeting came into play, because now it wasn't just 4 actors filming from their own spaces. Now we had to get other locations. We had to get outside locations. We had to get, locations in different cities. And all of that kind of came into play. And as well as a lot of these locations are also still very public. So we also had to deal with, I know in the 3rd episode, we actually booked that space. It is a studio here in Los Angeles, but we filmed a lot on the public sidewalk. So we had people walking by, which also is taking up our time, which we don't also have, because we don't have the budget for time, So we're having people walking by, people stopping and being like, oh, we see that little scuffle in the 3rd episode as well, between Austin and Nick, and people were like, oh wait, are they really fighting? So now people are like in the shot, like back up, so we had to deal with that. But we also had to deal with, feeding everyone. We wanted to make sure that everyone is fed and happy and taken care of, but also making sure everybody's safe. We are still in a pandemic, and when we shot this, we were very much so in the middle of like lockdowns. Every other week it was like lockdown. No, this week we're not locked down. So we wanted to make sure everyone felt safe. We wanted to make sure that we kept the crew very small, and that, like Candice said, when we were in the actors' homes, we wanted to make sure that we weren't invading their privacy or their space, but also, making them feel like safe having other people in their space.
If I could just add, one other thing in addition to time was the fact that we were up against if the state was going to get locked down again, because numbers were rising. And so initially our plan was to shoot about 8 days, but we kind of kept adding some scenes, and we realized that it would take a little bit longer than what we initially planned. And so we had to go to Fort Bragg as well, which is in Northern California, which is about maybe 500 miles from Los Angeles. And so we were trying to get everything done before, because our fear was that, locations would get locked down. We wouldn't be able to, rent anything. So in addition to time, not having time, we were also up against that invisible time of, if we're going to be able to even finish it at all. So that was like another factor, definitely.
Cool. Right. Do you have any memories from filming that stick with you throughout your careers? Anyone?
I have one, and it has to do with Miss Coke here.
Uh-oh. Oh, you mean this? Go for it. Go for it.
On Candice's rap day, we had a song and dance party. Yeah, like right after her last tape. That will stick with me.
It is very memorable.
It was very, yeah, we might release some behind the scenes.
Oh, great. I can't wait for that. That'll be wonderful.
But yeah, we had a song and dance party. That was fun. That'll stick with me.
Yeah.
Does that include the pelting with eggs?
Yeah.
That was very memorable for me. I think it's more the connections that are memorable for me. You know, it's like the conversations that you have with people, because you know anything can happen on a set, and so many things do happen. And I just think it's more about the feeling that you can create while you're doing a project that's most memorable for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think we were very grateful and blessed to not have had any issues. I mean, there are always hiccups, but we were able to kind of, you know, work through everything that kind of, problems that arised or whatever. But I'd say after we wrapped, and because I live in the Bay Area, Northern California, and so on my drive home after leaving LA, just thinking like, man, I can't believe we actually did that. And just on the ride back, it's like maybe 3.5 hours, 4 hours, just being amazed at what we were able to do in the time frame we were given, and just being proud of everybody, and just in awe, kind of like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely that. Yeah, just the overall experience. I mean, we shot this. Sorry, I'm just speaking now to everyone, but we really did shoot this like in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty nuts. You know, big studios were shutting down, and we found a way to be safe and still create. So
Totally.
it's pretty awesome.
It's a massive achievement. Because even now, I think they probably got the handle on it now. But I remember reading about like big movie sets being shut down. I think the Batman was one of them, and I know that various TV shows that shoot over in Canada, they were shutting down every so often. So yeah, it's tricky, but I'm glad they got it sorted well as best they can.
For now.
Right.
Yeah. So what is your preferred genre, and do you have any favorite films and TV shows?
My preferred genre is like really dark and weird. My boyfriend's always like, "Why are there murders always on your television screen?" Like, I like to get inside the brain of people psychologically. So I like to watch things as to what I don't understand. To human behavior that I don't understand. Like I just finished watching Mayor of Easttown, which I think was phenomenal. They're just all the actors are so connected and present, and like just it's just when you watch something like that, you're like, what else is there? You know what I mean? Like you want to rise to that occasion every time you work or you do a project. You want it to feel as good as something like that. So yeah, like that was one of my shows. I'm starting The Flight Attendant right now.
Well, that's brilliant. You're gonna love that.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Oh, I also like dark and weird. I think I'm more partial to the fantasy side of it. I love like things that have to do with like magic and yeah, magic.
Magic and fairies.
Do what?
Magic and fairies.
Magic. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, it's funny. I'm really not into like the fairy or I know there's some really cool shows out there. I watched one that Orlando Bloom's in, and it does have fairies and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is a great show, but I don't know. I love things like recently I've watched Shadow and Bone. And I love that because it still has to do with magic, but it's in a different way. They talk about it being able to, not as like a Harry Potter, which I also love, where you have to use a wand and you cast spells, but they talk about it in Shadow and Bone as in a way of like, they're able to manipulate matter, not necessarily like cast a spell. It's like they're just able to manipulate what is around them. And I'm like, that's really cool. That's a really cool take on what magic is like. So I'm into that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Great. And it's coming back for a season 2, which I can't wait for.
Oh.
Yeah, Shadow and Bone. Brilliant series.
For me, it's dark, but mainly like drama, mystery, historical. Those like the main, again, like Malcolm X. Like I love the power, that film has to not only entertain but inform. Even look at documentaries like Blackfish, the power that it had to kind of shut down SeaWorld in a sense and kind of rescue some of those whales. Like film is very powerful. And in terms of shows, I haven't watched that many new shows. I'm still in the 4th season of Handmaid's Tale. And I'm actually, this is an older show, well, maybe a few years back, but I'm on the 2nd season of, and now it's like escaping me. Claire, what is it?
Oh, Outlander.
Yeah, Outlander.
Outlander. Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, so that's, yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I think the Orlando Bloom show that you mentioned is Carnival Row.
Yes, Carnival Row. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's cool. I think they're coming back for a 2nd season as well.
Possibly. Hope so. Who inspires you in the industry?
Everybody, lots of people.
Yeah.
Like as far as
Other actors
or work-wise.
Other actors, filmmakers in general, people that like you saw when you were a kid that just like were like just struck a nerve with you to get in.
Let's just start there. I think everybody was like a little bit inspired by Morgan Freeman. He was just always this like solid force, to be watched, and he was human, and he also was groundbreaking, being a man of color and like being able to do the roles that he's been chosen to do, I think, along the way, and still doing that. I love, I love people that have a voice. I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. I know people are on this seesaw about him sometimes, but when I watch him work, he's 100% dedicated to what he does. And while he's doing it, he is a true professional. I love the Meryl Streeps, of course, the Cate Blanchetts. I love people that take risks, and I love people that use their platform as also an opportunity to give back and inspire people while on and off the screen. So let's start there, I guess.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, like that's so it's so hard to like narrow it down, like that. I agree with everything Candice just said. I also say, somebody that I was recently talking to Tiffany about is Halle Berry, because she just morphs into everything, and it's so great to watch her work. And just the other day I was watching Introducing Dorothy Dandridge, and it's just like she really does, just like Candice was saying about Tom Cruise and Morgan Freeman, they really are dedicated and committed to who they're playing, but also who they're sharing. This we see them sometimes do these kind of biography type of pictures of real people, and they really do just embody these people and really do give us a sense of like who this person is, and we connect with them. And I love seeing actors that do that. I also love directors that are willing to take risks and do things that might not seem commercial. When the first person I think of is like Tarantino, really creating a style that's not the status quo or just like the cut and edit. He does really random things. I love that kind of style of film. And I'm also inspired by not even just people that I've watched growing up, but like these two women, you know what I mean? Like friends of mine, people who are in the industry, like we lift each other up all the time. You know what I mean? We see each other working. We're like, yes, that's what's up. Like,
yeah.
And just for us to, this is the first project we've all been able to come together to work on, Indemnity. And it's just great to like be able to know these women for so many years now in different facets, working on different projects separately, and now having this team together, I think is just magical.
It
Yeah. Um, I mean, definitely, so of course, Spike Lee, Malcolm X, but just growing up, like his films were very inspiring, and also someone who I studied a lot, the late John Singleton, definitely just his first film, to be able to, you know, to be so young, to have experienced something, to be able to write something like that, Boys in the Hood, I'm referring to. You know, have just always been, you know, amazed by him and his gift. And like Tyler said, you know, you guys, and like just working on Tyler with this project, he really is a genius, and he really pushed me, you know, and challenged me. You know, we had a lot of late night sessions, and, you know, working on the voiceovers, which was something that we kind of decided to add in post-production. And, you know, it took us a while to kind of figure out what that was. And, you know, I appreciate him for just having, you know, just his vision. I'm really inspired by him very much so. And Candice, because she was on it from day one, you know, no, seriously.
For
Three,
real, yes.
3 takes and we're out of there. You know,
3
like,
takes and we're done.
on it.
Like 3 takes, we're done.
Yeah. We knew we were going to stick to our
Three's
schedule.
my lucky number. I feel like if you do it more than 3 times, like then you lose the authenticity of things. You're like, okay, now I've got to recreate. Yeah.
But it wasn't even about Candice's performance. It'd be like, oh, the camera was off a little bit. So it was literally like, no, 3 takes and we're done. Doesn't matter if the camera's off or what. 3 takes, we're moving on.
Maybe 5 sometimes.
And you can only be hit with eggs so many times. So.
Well, that was a 1-take wonder. So yeah.
That was a 1-take wonder. Yeah. For real. That was great.
All right. So with the popularity of streaming services like Netflix, what do you think the future of cinema is?
What do you think the future what?
Of cinema is?
Oh. I think it's going to be both. I think, you know, we have all these wonderful streaming platforms. We have all these, you know, apps and things. And obviously we still have our television. But I think that like people miss going to the movies. I think that, you know, even bringing old school drive-in movies back, which we actually revisited during this pandemic, I feel like there's a resurgence of like the tradition. So I love the fact that we have more platforms to watch more things on, because it just keeps it more interesting. You know, sometimes I want to be on the couch snuggled up watching a show. Sometimes I want to be, you know, out on a rooftop watching an old movie. So I think it's great that we have all the options that we do have. I think it's just going to get bigger from here. Who knows?
Yeah. I think that we see not only the streaming services as like Netflix and Hulu and stuff, but we see a lot of the big networks moving to their online streaming platforms as well. So it almost kind of makes me think, you know, and maybe this is a new show, Tiff. But no, it almost makes me think I feel like they're gonna try to find a way to repackage just the streaming services as like cable. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like, you know, we're seeing all of the networks move to streaming anyway. And I think it's just more convenient for people. You know, I don't necessarily know if the days of when we were kids, you know, we'd be like, oh, Thursdays at 7, we have to watch our show. I don't know if those days I think those days might be gone. You know, I think people now like to stream, you know, the full thing. You know, we even saw with the release of Indemnity, you know, we released it originally over the course of a month. It's 6 episodes, but we released the first 3 episodes on basically week 1. And then week 2, 3, and 4 of that month, we released individual episodes. So even with that, we did see, you know, people watching each week, but now we're seeing like a lot of people just streaming the whole thing. They waited. And I think that is, you know, something that I think our industry is going to have to kind of come to terms with as far as shows go and things like that. But we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I think streaming and being able to binge shows is definitely in vogue right now. And I think also more independent voices are starting to have a platform with, web series. With YouTube, people can shoot films on their phones now. And, with social media, if you have a certain following, you can really kind of get your voice and your stories kind of out there to people, a lot easier than before, where it's like, oh, I have to go to a film festival and, hopefully this gets picked up, or hopefully it's streaming here. Like, you could just release it, and anyone can watch it. So I think it's also allowing, people from all backgrounds to really be able to create and get their stories heard a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess as creators, it just makes it a bit more. I suppose it opens up more doors for you, doesn't it, as creators?
Sure.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
right. And I think it's great. We see these certain streaming platforms. We're seeing them take risks on independent creators as well. We're seeing a lot of indie films and shows like kind of coming up through Netflix and Hulu, and even on Amazon. We're seeing them give these creatives a chance, at a larger platform, at a larger audience. So like Tiff said, with YouTube is great because that's your own audience, but I think it's also great that these streaming platforms are also taking risks and opening it up.
Awesome, absolutely. So what are you hoping the audience will take away from Indemnity when they get a chance to see it?
Everything. No, I hope people will take away the sense that we should all respect each other's opinions.
I was gonna say something similar to that too.
And choices.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tiffany did a brilliant job of creating this world that revolves around these indemnity points. And I think it really does, it's scary because we're kind of already seeing that parallel with what's happening right now in real life. But we're seeing this divide in the show of where people go, how people think, how people are judging each other. And I think if anything, I want people to understand that that's not who we should be. I do think that we are capable of better. I think we are capable of respecting each other. And if we disagree, just, agree to disagree, call it a day. You know what I mean? But I think that should be respected. Everybody's opinions about whatever should be respected. But at the end of the day, just because you feel like you're right doesn't mean that is the right thing.
100%.
So yeah.
I agree with what Tyler said, and just to add, also to not be afraid to question things. Don't take everything at face value. Just because it's been reported or this or that. Everyone isn't always right, and you don't know the intentions that certain people have or behind certain things. So if something doesn't pass a smell test, don't be afraid to look into that, and don't think that you don't know what you're talking about, or that you're lesser than, or that your opinion doesn't hold up because you don't have a PhD in something. Like, don't be afraid to question something that just doesn't make sense, or if you want more information, I would say that as well, to not, of course, to respect, but to don't kind of hush that voice in the back of your mind that kind of tells you like something might be a little off with this. Look into things, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Absolutely. What's the future hold for Indemnity now that this and what are you hoping for?
And I would love to see a season 2, not just for my sake, but just for the sake of the characters. Like now I'm like, now what? You want to know what's going to happen, and maybe these two minds together can fast forward to what's going to happen with what we're going through right now in a year from now. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's jump cut to 2 years in the future. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. There's always, I don't know if you ever, hear that thing. Once it's spoken, it kind of exists in the zeitgeist. It's like if you get a thought, it's usually divine intervention because there's a reason behind it. So it'd be interesting to see what these two come up with. With that being said.
Yeah, we definitely started brainstorming, ideas for season 2 so perfectly, that happens. We're really hoping it does. Tal and I have been coming up with ideas as to how we can kind of make that happen. So it's definitely something that is on our radar, and that we're working to make happen for sure.
Cool.
And maybe beyond season 2, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely would love a season 2 as well. And yeah, I mean, I hope we can see, Indemnity everywhere. I hope we can get that large audience. You know what I mean? I'm someone who I feel like being a creative, our art is not, or speaking for myself, my art is not mine. You know what I mean? It's meant to be shared. It's meant to be released. And if there's something, I don't know if these two ladies can relate to, or if they have thoughts on as well. But for me, there is something when I release something that I've created or whatever, whether it's, not necessarily the show, but just other projects I've been in and everything else. But there's a sense of like, it really is like a release. Like it feels like like, you know what I mean? Like it just came out, you know what I mean? And that feels good. I like that feeling because it's vulnerable and it's scary, but at the same time, it's like, I love to see the response. I love to see like, oh, did somebody else connect to this in some type of way? Did it hit them emotionally, or did they, and I love just whenever we hear those types of responses, I'm just like, wow, like, connecting to someone that you don't know is awesome.
Absolutely. And what's the reception been like now that the season's over?
It's been really good. We're really excited about it. We have a lot of great comments under the YouTube. A lot of people have been texting me and calling and voice messaging. People are really into the show. I mean, one of my closest friends just the other day reached out to me, and I had originally told her about the show when we were still in post-production. And she thought, she was watching it the other day, and I was texting her, and she was like, stop texting me, I'm watching the show. And I'm like, what show? She was like, Indemnity. I was like, wait, you haven't watched it this whole time? She was like, well, I thought you were doing video vlogs. I was like, what? Video vlogs? So now she's watching it and she's like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is what you did. Like, this is crazy. I love this show. You know what I mean? And so it's really cool to like even see that, response from people. Yeah.
Very cool.
What about you guys? Have you guys heard anything else?
Just, the comments, texts, calls from, my aunt, I guess aunt-in-law, my aunt, she's like, yeah, I watched it 10 times, so it's like, I think the cool thing is, people from all generations have enjoyed it from what I've heard so far, that it's not just like for a specific audience. It really is for everyone to watch and take something away from it. And so what's been cool is like, my friends, family, and people, again, from across generations who have watched it and have enjoyed it, which I think is really cool because our goal wasn't to kind of have it to pinpoint a certain audience. It really was, or is, a show for everyone to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. So where can we find you online to keep up with everything you're doing?
So the show is on Instagram is at Indemnity_TV. Also our Twitter, but our website is indemnitytv.com. So no underscore, just indemnitytv.com. All the episodes, super easy. All the episodes are there. The trailer and teaser are there. And then we'll be having, I believe later this week, we'll be having some more content, interviews with the actors and stuff like that, put on the website as well.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Was it always intended to be a six episode series?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
We're all like, yes. Yeah, no. 6 episodes. I think at the beginning, we didn't really know how many episodes. We were just like, let's just write something and see where it goes. And then it kind of became like, no, let's cap it at 6.
That's cool. It seems to be quite a good number. I know the Marvel, like a lot of the Marvel shows, like Loki at the moment is 6 episodes. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier was it 6 as well? I think. I don't know. I know that WandaVision was 9. So yeah, but they're good shows as well. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it there. But it's been a pleasure to speak to you all. Good luck with the series, and I hope there's a season 2 because I want to know what happens next. I want to know if you find your sister.
Yeah.
No spoilers. I don't want to know before seeing it. So.
Right. Thank you.
But
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. I appreciate the time. Nice to see everybody's faces.
Yeah, no worries. It's been an absolute pleasure. So you look after yourselves, and look out for it.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for more content next time.
What else am I supposed to do?
Year after year, we lose so much of ourselves by hiding from each other.
I'm here on the largest of the Balearic Islands, Mallorca. With the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean Sea, beautiful mountainous landscape, the thriving city of Palma, quaint little market towns, a growing number of luxury hotels, it's no surprise that the likes of Audrey Hepburn and Elizabeth Taylor like to holiday here. So come and join me as I take you round Mallorca.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. Be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.